What is up, everybody? I am your host, Jaso / the Wizard / the DMGM. Welcome to the God Mode channel. What is up, everybody? What is up, Expired? What is up, Discordian? And everybody else in the chat. I see Anna's already got the dancing cats over there. That Portal intro, Nick, I know. It's slick. It's nice. I am hanging out tonight with both Anna as well as our DM guest tonight, Bipolardiceroller, aka Rob. How you doing, Rob?
Hello. Excited to be on the God Mode channel for the first time. First of many, I should hope.
Welcome / sorry to the channel here. Tonight, we are going to be doing our new show, DM on DM, kind of just breaking down some tips, tricks, and experiences as fellow dungeon masters / game masters, kind of just shooting the shit, having fun. Really quickly, if you want to come hang out and check out my content on any other social media platforms, I'd love to have you follow the channel here, just because I'm like a few people away from 450 followers here on Twitch. I'd love to hit that milestone. But you can go check out my links. They're probably in the About section down below and here on Twitch. And go follow my Twitter for up-to-date notifications on stuff. I have a Patreon, Instagram. I'm also DMing professionally over on Start Playing, so if you want, go check that out as well. Thank you, Anna, for dropping those. Go check that out. I have a Tuesday game in the evenings and a Thursday game as well. I would love to get off the ground and start the career as the Dungeon Master in a professional sense. If you want to have a wonderful, fun, wacky Spelljammer campaign DM'd for you by me, make sure and go check out those details. But for now, let's have a little chat with Rob. How you doing, buddy? Let me begin my questionnaire here, Rob, and break into it, and then we'll just let the conversation flow from there. Also, yes, this is Anna over to my side. She's just...
Yes, I'm just chilling over here. I didn't want to...
This is what she really looks like. She's just being very still right now, so that's why...
Yes, I'm being extremely still. You are seeing my true form. The glamour is wearing off. I'm freaking out.
I'm honestly terrified. So, I feel like this is a hazing technique. I'm like on the Eric Andre show right now. So
I mean, yes, from the way I'm dressed up and the set that we're in, it may as well be. It may as well
prank.
be.
Yeah. No one can move. She can't see you if you don't move.
Yeah, nobody move.
I can always see you.
Oh, there's the demon voice.
Yeah, there you go. At the beginning of the stream. Let's dive in, Rob. The questions. How long have you been DMing and GMing for?
Well, I suppose that depends on the definition. I've been playing tabletop games, particularly RPGs, for about 13 years now. So I must have been about 12 years old when I first started playing D&D, which is uncommon here in the UK. I know a lot of people don't necessarily know how broad the exposure is of Dungeons and Dragons and the like across the world, but D&D certainly doesn't have as big a scene in the UK as it does in the US.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So I was one of very few. I was only introduced to it because I had a cousin who was like a mega nerd and was really into Warhammer. So Warhammer was my first experience with tabletop RPGs, and there was a Warhammer club at the school I went to, so that's what bit me. But I kind of, when I went to high school, I stopped playing because, the general stigma of playing Dungeons and Dragons when you're at high school is
absolutely
is a tough one. And I was just too busy with like studies and sports and stuff, so I didn't really have time for huge campaigns. But it was when I left school and I started off as a line chef, and I went to culinary college. And I was exhausted by that. So at night, we're talking like this time, right, for me, which is about midnight to 1 p.m. in the morning, even though I'd been on the line all day from about, midday until midnight, I would play D&D. I'd host D&D games for communities over on Roll20. And that was about, it got really serious about 5 or 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then after a year or two, doing, amateur hobbyist games for a rather large community, a larger community than I have now in a professional sense. Should have never have given up that Discord server. I turned to professional DMing, and I quit my job as a chef. So
Oh my
That's-
gosh. Rock on, my
working.
friend.
Yeah,
Congrats.
4 years and counting now. So
That's
it's
excellent.
Been a long time. Yeah.
That's hey, throw that rope down, brother. I'm trying to climb up there with you.
Yeah, I mean, if you would have jumped on that rope 4 years ago, you would have had a much easier time than you do now. So.
That's so funny to hear. You know, you would have thought that the pandemic and everything would have sort of opened many people's eyes to, you know, the virtual world in terms of meeting up. That's so you're not the only person who said that too, and that's so surprising to hear, because I thought you would have thought that after everything that's happened, you know, maybe the world's mentality in terms of meeting in virtual spaces would have had a bigger impact and maybe seen a more following. So that's crazy to hear.
It did initially. You're right in your in your assumption, but then once the world began to open up again, the influx of DMs stayed, and the players kind of scattered and went back to their real lives and their actual jobs and responsibilities. So
or their
had a
in-person
reverse
games.
impact. Yeah, absolutely. They found their old tables again. I mean, from what I hear, most people are still very reticent to do an in-person game. Still, a lot of people are still not used to being back in the world and that close up with people. So there's still a lot of people who feel more comfortable playing online.
Well, good. Stay in your houses, everybody. Contact me as your professional GM. Let's get it going. That's funny.
Never leave your houses again.
That's funny that you mentioned that. I have a very similar experience as did you, Rob, where me and my cousin growing up, we were huge into Warhammer. And the funny thing is, like, I don't know that we ever actually played a full game of Warhammer. It was just that, you know, because when you're young, like, Warhammer is expensive.
Absolutely.
Like, extremely expensive. So we were like in that ancillary surface layer. You know, I came across those, what were they? The dwarf magazines, or what were they called? The ones that had like Warhammer content inside of them.
Yeah. The not the fanzine, but like the equivalent of Dragon magazine.
Yes.
For Dungeons and Dragons.
I came across those and flipping through those pages and seeing them. It wasn't even Dungeons and Dragons related, but it was seeing the miniatures, and they would do that thing where over a couple pages they would describe how a battle went. But they would show you the miniatures, and they would paint White Dwarf. Yeah, there you go. White Dwarf.
There you go. That's the one.
They would paint you a picture of how the combat went and the battle went, and it was such a immersive experience reading through and looking at the pictures that they had. There was these just beautiful, high quality painted miniatures, and you could just envision it in your minds. And so me and my cousin were big into that. We enjoyed painting and getting our little miniatures ready. Like I said, I don't think we ever actually played a game. It was just the idea of having this hobby that was, you know, it's not sports, it's not cars, it's nerdy, but it's like our own thing that we really could dig our heels into, that there was you know, like a community for. We have stuff over here like Hobbytown USA and things like that. Do you have sort of like the geek stores you could meet at and play?
We have one. Our scene, there are obviously independent game stores, but the most common one you'll find is the like Warhammer store, which is Games Workshop, where Warhammer was born.
Yo, you have an actual Games Workshop store?
There's loads of them.
Oh,
they're everywhere. So that's why. So I always find this is the American conception that obviously Warhammer's expensive for anyone. It was expensive for me, but the difference is because it was so already like ingrained in the like British nerd space alongside like Doctor Who and these other like established British nerd culture icons. There was tons of these independent stores where you could go and buy super cheap secondhand Warhammer pieces, right? Some of them like muddled like factory defect style stuff that they just kind of like gave out to people who they knew. So you could get really cheap Warhammer stuff. I never had any of the like premium sets. I think one time for my birthday, I asked my parents to get me I was really into Tyranids. I know nobody really cares about Tyranids, but I really like the whole like alien xenomorph dinosaur thing. And I got one of the I can't remember what they're called. I think they're like the Hive Queens. Like they're the big, scary set. Because I was always getting my ass kicked that Warhammer club at school because I went to a school where there were a lot of rich kids, but my parents didn't ever spend that kind of money on anything that wasn't like absolutely essential. So they'd show up with their like box set Chaos Marines and Space Marines and wipe the floor with me because I just couldn't put enough pieces on the board to compete. And that was like my one special time I ever purchased any Warhammer product. So yeah, Warhammer is the bigger. Well, I think these days Dungeons & Dragons has a bigger space because it's become more popular since 5th edition release, but traditionally Warhammer was the dominant. You see like a lot of these like British nerd celebrities, like Henry Cavill, for instance, is a huge Warhammer.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he's talking about it all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where that comes from. It's because Games Workshop has more or less the monopoly on hobby stores in the UK, and they are the creators of Warhammer.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's that.
Yeah, we have those sort of like hobby stores here, but man, to be able to work, that's kind of like going to Disneyland for me. If I could walk into like a just official Games Workshop, and just I went to the movie theater plaza near me has a Hobbytown USA, and I went in there and I was so sad. There's all kinds of crafts and fun stuff, and then they had the Warhammer section, and it was like this just tiny little section in the corner, and I'm just like, I want a wall full of them to just look at them and ogle at them and read through the books. It'd be so cool. Discordian says, my first encounter with Warhammers were reading a few of the various Splat source books someone else had brought with them to something. Yeah, they're beautiful. The art in them is so cool. The visual imagery is really awesome. That's a great gateway into D&D. So I fell into that very similar to the same way you did, Rob.
And
so
then there was me. And then there was me who was dragged in by my cousin to play Vampire the Masquerade.
That's the thing.
Always cousins.
Cousins,
Always
right?
cousins.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Always cousins.
And I've been for D&D, I've been DMing for 11 years now. I've been playing TTRPGs for 12 years.
Wow.
So I played D&D for 1 year, and I was like, okay, that's it. I want to make my own story.
Yeah.
What
It's a bug that bites you for sure.
Rob, what type of like D&D systems have you played? Or not D&D systems. What type of TTRPG systems have you played in the past?
So I've played every edition of Dungeons and Dragons beside first, or basic, or like advanced first, whatever you want to call it.
So 2E up then.
2E up. So the first D&D book I ever owned was a 2E book, purely because it was like sitting at the back of a bookstore and was secondhand. It was like pennies on the dollar. I was like, I really want this. So I played AD&D when this was like, maybe 15, 20 years after the cycle of AD&D had even finished. But I was always playing stuff because I had older brothers. I was always playing like older games than I ever was really probably supposed to be playing. So I started with that, and it very quickly moved on to 3.5. 3.5 was already done with its cycle as well, so I moved to Pathfinder. So I played Pathfinder first edition for probably the longest out of anything, and then I lost touch with TTRPGs in general. I came back for a very brief foray with 4th edition, which I know gets a lot of stick, but I actually quite enjoy 4th edition. I'm one of those bizarre people who liked some of the stuff that it tried to present, and
I do as well.
Yeah, I know people aren't so keen on the like video game nature of combat, but I feel like it makes the combat itself more engaging and fun. But that's a personal taste thing.
Yeah. I agree with you on that. There was a beauty in the simplicity and synchronicity of the rules that kind of reminded me of Magic cards and the way the language of 4th edition was written. It made things very easy, and I think in the long run, having played quite a good bit of 5e, I think I like a lot of what 4e did, at least combat-wise. That many portions that you could still pull sections and pieces from 4e and still use in 5e, and I think that'd be completely acceptable.
For sure. I mean, Matt Colville has essentially built an entire 5th edition library off of bringing back, like,
that's
bringing
right.
4th edition stuff back into 5e. So
he really digs that, yeah.
Yeah, and his stuff's great, so big fan of that. Yeah, so I graduated to 5th edition, and then when I became a professional dungeon master, that's when I had more time on my hands and like invested commitment to actually exploring the TTRPG space a lot more. So that's when I started playing things like Call of Cthulhu, Monster of the Week with my good buddy James. Is a brilliant system. I absolutely adore when he runs a session of that. Besides that, I've never played a session of Vampire the Masquerade, but I am a keen or avid viewer of Vancouver by Night, who are another Twitch channel in our space who play Vampire the Masquerade quite frequently, as well as Dungeons and Dragons. I'm trying to think of other systems. I've dabbled in many. I've played Genesis, Shadowrun, Knives in the Dark. Like there's plenty of system. Yeah.
You've had a
love trying it.
You've had a nice little kind of, buffet of different ones.
That's for sure. And now I'm big into Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Hear me out. I absolutely adore Dungeons and Dragons 5th Edition. I love the.
This is going to be my next question. I know we kind of talked about this. What would you prefer between the two?
I can't say, because it's not a matter of preferring one to the other. It's about. So one of my big reasons why I've graduated from Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition is because I'm a freak, and for like probably about 2 to 3 years of my life, I was playing between 7 and 12 separate campaigns a week, right? DMing them. I've played every single official module that has ever been released except for Call of the Neverdeep all the way through. So I've exhausted that library of content, and I have now developed my own library of content in regards to, firstly, Spelljammer, and then another custom module which I call a Cursed Invitation, which is a Japanese-inspired setting and adventure path based off of some other experiences in my life that we can talk about if you guys are interested in that. And then, so there's that's it. That's all the content. The content has been done, and I guess that means I have edition fatigue, and I hate saying that because we get a lot of content for 5th edition. There's not I consume it too fast. So I've gone to Pathfinder because there's more stuff there, and there's a new way of interacting with the TTRPG space that is refreshing to me. I love both, but Pathfinder 2nd edition is my current fixation outside of developing Spelljammer and a Cursed Invitation.
Is it just edition fatigue, would you say, or are there elements of Pathfinder that sort of maybe have an edge on D&D, or at least this current edition?
So,
because I've never played Pathfinder myself, so I have no opinion on it.
So the thing about the core difference between Pathfinder 5th edition and D&D 5th edition and Pathfinder 2nd edition is the level of what a lot of people like to call crunch, right? Essentially a degree of how much rule mechanization there is in the system. D&D is very rules light. I know a lot of people sometimes look at D&D 5e and they think, oh, this is a lot. But
that's me. I look at it and I'm like, I don't know. There's a lot here, man. I could do that a little bit more, honestly. We could cut a little bit more out and I'd be cool with that.
I mean, if you've ever played any of the former editions of Dungeons and Dragons, you immediately recognize that 5e is relatively light.
That is true.
Yeah. So, and even in regards to other systems too, Pathfinder 2nd edition has evolved in the same kind of pathway as Dungeons and Dragons, but it has done so in a manner where it has retained a lot of its niche and complexity. So rather than Dungeons and Dragons opens itself up to you are not so defined by any one feature or trait or class, race, whatever, which I think is awesome, which is why I love the system. There are a lot more specified roles and positions in Pathfinder 2nd edition. Like, if you're going to build a ranged character, you're really going to not be so good mixing it up in melee. Whereas in 5th edition, if you build a ranger who is good at archery, he's going to be pretty good using a finesse weapon as well, right? Like, you can mix those two things up. and also you can just attempt any check you want in 5th edition, which again is fun for like a big kind of like overall roleplay experience. But it is really cool to see in Pathfinder 2nd edition people really shining in their specializations. So it's just a different experience, honestly. I don't think one is superior to the other. I'm not here to tell people that they're wrong or that my opinion is more valid than theirs. But for me at the moment, I'm really enjoying Pathfinder 2nd edition. But again, I find 5e the most accommodating and open like high fantasy system that I still play. So
I have noticed that as the content has released for D&D, it seems like nowadays you can pick that base class, and then that class archetype that you can pick from 3rd level on is essentially anything you want. So like, I want to be a ranger, but also I want to be that cool wizard spellcaster, and you can just dip into anything you want. So it seems Pathfinder sounds interesting because it sounds like you have that, it's crunchier, but you, because of that, have the breadth of options that you could really specialize your character with. It sounds pretty cool.
Right. And the other cool thing I think is there are, because 5th edition is such a open-ended almost like sandbox to play in, it opens up to all kinds of play styles, right? So you have the casual player, and then you have the hardcore player, both playing the same system. And when the casual player brings something to the table, it's fun, it works with the core design. But then you have the hardcore player who brings something that is amazing, but it's too good. And Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition was not balanced around you putting all of your bonuses into one stat, taking all the best feats that you can, taking the most optimized race class combination, and you just obliterate the campaign. In Pathfinder, they say to you, it like leads you. It doesn't force you. It leads you to be number 2. So everyone is on the same kind of level of potency. So nobody feels like they're being overshadowed in the system. Which in 5e, I don't blame the system for that. I blame, typically it comes from a lack of conversation. So like if you have a session 0 and some people go, I'm just doing this for like casual fun, I don't want to feel like I'm power tripping. Then there are other people who have other tastes who are just like, I want to absolutely decimate everything that stands in front of me. So that's the discrepancy in 5th edition that I think Pathfinder has found a really interesting way of dealing with.
That's a really interesting way to think about it, yeah. Outside of those 2 systems, are there any other sort of like systems that you really kind of have a love for?
I mean, I always love Warhammer because of not just the even the game mechanics, because I can consume Warhammer in any form, like tabletop, video game, comic books, whatever. I love the world of Warhammer because it's so kind of like opaquely problematic. Everyone is awful in Warhammer. Everyone is evil.
It's that perfect level of like grunge, that just like everything's kind of shitty. Yeah,
for sure. But I'd say if there's like another system that has really kind of like caught my eye, it's one that hasn't come out yet, and one that we have very little definitive knowledge about, and that is the up and coming Avatar: The Last Airbender, like the Avatar, the role-playing RPG, because I am a super fan of that series. It's my absolute favorite like cartoon of all time. So I'm very excited to live out my fantasies as like an airbender or whatever, Nice. So that's what I'm looking forward to. They've smashed the Kickstarter as well. So if you haven't checked
excellent.
out, I'd suggest it.
Yeah, no, I didn't even know that was coming down the pipeline. That's pretty awesome.
It's super cool.
Let's see. Hopefully it's good. Sometimes you get those properties that you love and they try to make like a board game or something out of it, and you're just like, it's just doesn't translate well or doesn't work well. I want to break in more into we talked about kind of some of the stuff that your favorites into just general systems, but let's dive a little bit more into D&D? Because I know we talked about this before the stream, and you were telling me you still use 5th edition for your Twitch stream for Spelljammer, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So with that in mind, and I guess just as a generality throughout your experience through Dungeons and Dragons, since you've been able to kind of go through the various different versions that it has grown into over time, what kind of GM would you say that you are for D&D? Like what's out of those 3 pillars of like exploration, role play, and combat, what do you tend to find yourself sort of gravitating towards as a dungeon master?
Oh, it's roleplay all the way. I'm first and foremost interested in roleplay beyond anything. I use ttrpgs as a vehicle through which to tell a narratively engaging story. Like above all else, I will sacrifice the other 2 pillars to fulfill that. Like I could honestly sit and just improv in a fantasy world and be just as happy as rolling some dice. I think the dice just add a little bit of extra variability and excitement for me. So yeah, RPG elements, role playing is my favorite element of that.
I probably would agree with that. I've told the story before, but before, I have DM'd for 8 or so years, but my first experience kind of running a game was not with Dungeons and Dragons, but with Call of Cthulhu. And that was, talking about rules lights games. It's not rules light per se, but it is. It was a version of the game, the official version. I think it was from what's the studio, Platinum something. But they were ones that were. It was the type of game that was just like so roleplay focused that moving to D&D, I was kind of like, man, I really unfortunate that there's not as many sort of engaging roleplay rules for D&D.
Right. So that's something that you have to bear in mind with Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. I know a lot of this is a contentious statement for some people, but just by like sheer evidence, Dungeons and Dragons is a combat orientated system. It is purely based off of combat, exploration, and like puzzle solving, because for every 1 rule about roleplay, there are 100 rules about combat. So it kind of, but that's the beauty of Dungeons and Dragons 5e, I think, which is why so many people have engaged with it, is it doesn't restrict roleplay in any way. It says to you, okay, these are like the controllable factors. This is to give a balanced scenario for like competitive combat, which is fine. But then in roleplay, they kind of say, here's the world, go live in it, right? Go tell your story. We're not going to tell you how to tell your story, which can be incredibly interesting. It makes it a lot easier for people who, especially people who are not quite as used to like wrapping their head around the idea that they're a character and they're not themselves, because sometimes it's hard to detach that.
There's a lot of people that have trouble with that. Yeah. But say something like Pathfinder 1st edition and now 2nd edition, there is such thing as social combat, where you roll a die before you do the talking to determine whether you are actually doing well at the talking. So you would roll a diplomacy check and you'd see the roll and you'd be like, crap, I rolled a 3. So now you have to be rubbish, right? You have to role play that you messed up. Whereas in 5th edition, what I always see happens, because there's no distinguishment, and you can do this in your own games, like no one's telling you can't do this because it's your game, do whatever you want. That's literally what it says at one of the first pages of the Dungeon Master's Guide. People do like this whole, I'm going to do this, I'm going to describe everything that's going on, I'm super cool and suave and intelligent, and then they roll a check and they roll a 1, and they're like, then you have to kind of recede on all of that, or you have to be open to allowing roleplay to flow, which I've in my kind of like rudimentary years, my foundation of Dungeons and Dragons, I was very kind of assured about, if that's the role, that's what you get. Whereas more recently, I very rarely ever ask someone to ever roll for a diplomacy check, because
the way that the rules around diplomacy for 5th edition, I assume you know this, but like a lot of people don't know this because it's not mentioned in the player's guide. I don't believe. I think it's in the DMG. Is that every NPC has a state of attitude, right? They're hostile, they're indifferent, they're friendly, right? You determine that before. This is the behind the scenes. The players don't know that this is the case, and all the players can do is roll to change that stage by 1, right? So you can change something from being hostile to indifferent, but you can't make a hostile creature friendly, right?
Interesting. Okay.
Unless stated otherwise. Unless that's the general rule, the specific outweighs the general, right? So that's where I was kind of like, well, that doesn't seem like necessarily right to me. I'm just going to open things up and be more human, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. That feels. I'm always a little cautious when games try to include social roles, because I'm the same way. I understand that from mechanical position, and players out there who may want to say, I'd love to play this game and be good at it, but I'm not a great talker or a great role play person. But I definitely feel where you're coming from. I would say that I very similarly lean towards the role play. I like to try to gear it towards whatever group I'm playing with, and my friends tend to enjoy
Absolutely.
like a good batch of all three. But I myself prefer the role play. We did that the Devils in the Details campaign 2 campaigns back before Perplex Low, and that was my test bed to say, here's my experiment. Can we do a D&D game that runs 20 to 25 sessions with like no combat in it? And by and large, it worked. I think there was 2 or 3 combat encounters, and for the most part, we barely ever rolled, unless people were doing active searches for stuff like that. But in conversation, there was few, if ever, rolls. Yeah, Discordian says 3, I think, overall in that entire time, and it was a fantastic opportunity to really see what Dungeons and Dragons could be if you didn't have to try and. Because I tend to agree with you. I think the game is built to be like, hey, we are essentially like the Lord of the Rings analog. There's adventure, there's the exploration, there's some combat in there, there's some dialogue in there. And if you try to change this movie style, you can, but the rules are really suited for those 3. So, but I think if you tinker enough, I'm not that type of person who's like, you can turn D&D into anything, because you can't. I don't think you.
There are people who would very fervently disagree.
They can do so, and I'm more welcome. I completely understand different perspectives. I think it would be very difficult to do so. Is what I would say. Right. So, being able to do the role play aspect of things and having it actually be something that works, I think is really awesome. And that's probably the one that I would focus on the most.
I think that Wizards of the Coast have noticed that is the general consensus. All you have to do is look at Wild Beyond the Witchlight for an example of them shifting towards a more role-play focused experience, because there is quite literally not a single set-piece encounter in that whole book, a whole official campaign.
That's interesting.
Roleplay.
I read through that content. I did notice it seems like there is a heavier emphasis on roleplay, and the characters in it seemed more interesting and maybe immersive in terms of trying to learn about them and roleplay with them, NPC wise, which seemed really interesting. We've talked all this time, but I want to, now that we've gone through all of the beginning stuff, I want to pick your brain, because we're 2 Spelljammer DMs.
We are.
I have a Spelljammer buddy now. I've had a couple that I've known in the past, but I always love having more, because it feels like we're kind of a smaller knit circle of
a rare breed
of people. Yeah. So let me pick your brain. What is your Spelljammer game that you run on your channel? What's it about? Tell me about it.
Okay, so Spelljammer Tears of the Moon is the name of our stream. It's Spelljammer for sure. In what I hope to be its purest essence. I know that Spelljammer is the vehicle for absolute freedom. And that's
the catch-all term, yeah.
Right, yeah. So you can literally make your own sphere. your own planes, your own anything. It gives you license to connect everything together. But for me, I don't know. I've always enjoyed taking what I know and imagining how it's affected by this new thing that I've discovered. So when I really first got into Spelljammer, it was only probably about, I'd heard of it before, but I really only probably got into Spelljammer maybe 3 years ago. Like, went down the real rabbit hole and bought all the books and read all of them and started reading Roger E. Moore's Maelstrom's Eye, like just totally obsessed. It spoke to me in a way where I thought, this thing is too interesting to have just sat around for 30 years. It was abandoned after, TSR stopped supporting it, and then Wizards of the Coast have yet to pick it up until now. So I kind of championed in my own head that I was going to go on a crusade and say, what has happened since the end of the Spelljammer cycle and the modern 5th edition timeline, right? So between when Spelljammer left off and where we are now, officially in the Forgotten Realms, 1490 DR, there has been 130 years of time in-game since that date. And so my stream tries to present the modern realm space of Spelljammer with then the expansion potentially. You haven't done this yet. We still haven't even got past the second planet from Toro. Our current escapade is taking us to Chandos, if people are familiar with Realm Space's solar system. But that's it. It's not reinventing the wheel. It's bringing something from D&D heritage in line with the modern era's Dungeons and Dragons. And I know that's very different to your own perception of Spelljammer, because you have done what you've done. It's a completely unique variety of Spelljammer.
Mine is a kitchen sink. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I had the idea of my perception of my game world has evolved over time, which I always anticipated that was going to happen. You have this idea of what you want your campaign to be in your mind, and then as you're playing it, you as a DM want to tweak things. Like, I'd kind of prefer this to be this thing, or my initial idea was like, I just want to make. It was a mixture of two things. I wanted it to be Doctor Who episodes, so I wanted there to be these small little arcs of like, I want there to be such a variety. I want the players to be, in a horror movie one episode, and the next one they're in the Wild West, and the next one they're in the, in a place where it feels like the far future and there's laser guns and stuff. And I think that's why I was so drawn to Spelljammer, is it can be all of those things because it's connected.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's that's almost even just bordering into the absurdity of some of the like more zany adventures of second edition. Like in there, the laser rifles and the antimatter rifles all come from the Barrier Peaks expansion, which then obviously got transported into the concept of like the flintlock space fantasy Spelljammer, which is what drew me in immediately, because whilst I am a big fan of sci-fi, I love all manner of sci-fi IPs. Space fantasy is such a small niche. It doesn't really exist. The only time that I've ever really felt like I've experienced space fantasy in this kind of essence before was when I read through the like ancient era, before what we know today, Star Wars, right? When it was more sorcery and magic and
a fantasy dressed up as sci-fi.
Absolutely. Well, that's the thing, right? And that's a hard thing to pin down for a lot of people about Spelljammer, which really upset some of the die-hard gatekeepers of Spelljammer. But I prefer to try and explain it to people, because I think if you're running, you can do it, and if it makes you happy and it's good, then that's fine. I'm not here to tell you how to play Spelljammer. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, people should be happy with what they're doing. But I think not having the opportunity to experience Spelljammer as space fantasy is like a miss, right? You've missed that experience, because it's so different to, you know, there's plenty of systems out there that are built for sci-fi. You've got Starfinder, Cyberpunk, you know, all of these kind of more modern, science-steeped settings. And then Spelljammer basically says to you, well, what would going to space look like if you didn't have like scientific advancement?
Yeah.
What if it was all magical?
Yeah.
And that's mind-boggling, because the permutations of that are endless. It's brilliant. I think it's a really ingenious idea that obviously was originally conceived by Jeff Grubb, but then expanded upon by a whole team of writers at TSR. And whilst there are definitely some janky bits here and there, the integration probably could have been, or at least the rollout and the way that it was kind of presented to fans at the time could have been better. I absolutely adore what they made. I think it's brilliant. There's a lot of people, and here's a big shout out to David Shepard, one of the OGs of the Spelljammer community, who's kept this thing alive on the piazza for fans. His big stumbling block is dealing with a group of people who say, I like Spelljammer, but, right? There's always a but that precedes the I like Spelljammer, which that's been a thing since it released, but it's far more common now with people's perceptions and advancements of how D&D has been presented. You know, the way planes function, cosmology, it's all changed since Spelljammer came out. And I think that's what Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition are trying to do their best now, is to align those evolutions to this old setting, which has a lot of good stuff to be played with.
You know what's funny is you mentioning that there's not a lot of media material that has kind of mixed those two elements. Maybe not. I mean, there's been some that have done it with that sort of idea of fantasy, but you know, when I was growing up, I played games like Might and Magic, Wizardry, and what's funny is a lot of these games, as you are, these are like early to late 90s games. I found myself constantly, as you play through those games, these artifacts of wonder in these games as you play through, or like this strange thing that came from the stars, which in your mind, playing this fantasy game, you think, oh, it's like a comet, or it's an evil undead person. And then you get far enough into the game where you hit that late game story, and it like clicks in your mind when you think, oh, cool, it's a spaceship. And these characters think this is just a magic item or some type of artifact because they've never seen a spaceship before. So I've always had that fascination of that mixture of, as you're mentioning, maybe not hard sci-fi elements, but just there is a mystery to the world beyond the groundling area that would be like magic to anybody else, even if it was more like sci-fi related. That's been really cool.
It really kind of encompasses human nature, doesn't it? Like, all of us find ourselves wondering what's bigger than this, right? Like, what's beyond that next corner? How far can we go? What's above our heads? And I think that was the one of the main impetus for the creation of Spelljammer. It didn't go, oh, we could just transport this theme that already exists and it would be perfectly serviceable. The team said, what is above the heads of these people, right? Mm-hmm. Not like, let's transport our real world precognitions. Let's try and think of it from this perspective. And then they built that, right?
They did.
How would a magical people get to space? They wouldn't invent a rocket ship. They would invent magical chairs that can attach to the ships and fly them into the sky.
And they did such a good job too, because I did a lot of reading through the original source material, and they had a ton of source books for Spelljammer.
So many. Yeah.
But I started out, and it was funny. It was almost like kind of being slapped out of a type of thinking, a way of thinking, because I kept thinking sci-fi when I was trying to build out my world. And when you go and read those Spelljammer books, it is so great. They break you of that mentality because they are not interested in having hard-coded rules for space. They don't care. It is exactly as you said. It is, what does space look like in a fantasy world? So they're like, stop having round planets everywhere. You can have square planets. You can have rings. You can have giants carrying planets on their back. And it's such a freeing idea. Yes, exactly. It's such a freeing idea to read that and be like, oh, wow, I'm thinking in my mind, like, I need to make this our real life, real world space. And you don't have to do that. And it's such a cool idea to take that concept and then stretch it out. Like, yeah, what would fantasy space be like? It's really fun to do.
Yeah. They said, what, these people don't have spacesuits. The world functions on a weave of tangible magical energy. How does air work? How does gravity work? It's so nuanced and bizarre, and it adds a uniqueness to the setting. Like, you wouldn't have Hadozis dive bombing through horizontal gravitational planes if they didn't decide to make gravity horizontal instead of, in
yeah,
spherical, which is a brilliant addition. And I think if we don't see those kinds of those innovations kept, it may rob Spelljammer of a lot of its essence.
Yeah,
so to say.
I think you're right. When a lot of people may make that assumption that when they see it, they think, what's Pathfinder's like Starfinder, and I feel like Starfinder probably is the more hard-coded sci-fi, whereas Spelljammer is its own unique beast.
Yeah, I do really enjoy Starfinder for what it is, but it's
for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see, flat crystal spheres unite. Yeah. So how long has your game been going over on your channel?
So the initial concept, the gathering of my preferred cast and development of the actual story and assets began maybe just over a year ago. And then the start date was around, I believe our first stream was the beginning of September last year. Mm-hmm. So we've been going for around, what would it be, like 9 months now, give or take. So we're fairly new, and there's been a lot of like struggles along the way, but we just started our second arc recently, and it's going strong. I think this is a really good time for people to jump in. We kind of ironed out all the kinks from the first season. The story itself is more or less standalone, and if you don't understand, we have a really great 10-minute recap done by the incredibly talented Justin Mariel, who, for people who aren't familiar with him, he's currently away from the stream because he is unfortunately too talented for us and has got a job performing at a musical theater in Utah for the time being.
Oh, good for him.
We love Justin, so wishing him all the best. Hopefully he'll return once he's done with his residency, because we need our Captain Gideon back. But yeah, I think that this is with the launch of Spelljammer officially, the now kind of like know-how under our belts, and a strong crew, cast or crew to like fulfill this vision. I think we have something kind of a bit special brewing, and I'd really like to share that with people,
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. I'd love for people to go check out your stream. I am jelly of that beautiful sick ass art you have on those thumbnails. It is so good. It's so amazing. I love it. It's just like, it's so cool to see new Spelljammer art, in any capacity. So it's just like, wow, more GIF and more, you even have the Bionoids. I'm like, the fucking Bionoid art. I need more of that in my life. It's so cool looking.
Yeah. No, that's a big shout out to the very talented team of artists who we have been working with since the beginning. I want to shout out JC Flores, Gaston Garcia, otherwise known as Gastron, and Rosen, or Lorenzo, who is our like graphic / template designer, who has done incredible work on our presentation and has also been working on a side supplement that we have been developing that includes all of the art and also all of the text-based content that I have written so far. So
Oh, nice.
look forward to that. I noticed that you have your own text-based content releasing with that incredible map of the giant with who's floating through space. That's one of my favorite pieces that you've produced so far. So it'd be really cool if we could, maybe one day work on something Spelljammer together. So
Yeah, that was if you read through, I don't remember, I think it was like Space Layers. That was that just one-off adventure of the gnome who has that friend. I think it was Gumpton or Gump, and was I sent the actual image that they had in that old second edition book of the back of the Colossus and was like, can you redraw this and just make it cooler?
That's what I do with my eyes. So I just send them like 2E like ink drawings of GIF and Bionoids and whatever, and I just go, make this look like it does now.
Oh man,
they're like, you got it, boss.
It's fucking chef's kiss. It's so good looking. I love it.
So brilliant. JC has really like emulated the 5th edition art style in a spectacular way.
Yeah,
like,
it could be confused for official stuff. It looks amazing.
I know. So some people think that our large Luigi is actually a real teaser image, and people have made 3D
People are like,
and...
did you get your hands on the Spelljammer 5e stuff early? What's going on here?
No, that's Gaston's work. Gaston is he never toots his own horn, but he has like been a concept artist for stuff like Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Battlefield and other projects. So he's probably one of the most talented people I've ever had the pleasure of working with. I don't know why he's agreeing to commissions for me drawing like silly beholder men with mugs of ale and what have you, but he seems to really enjoy it, so I really appreciate him being involved with that.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Anna, do you have any questions for a fellow Spelljammer DM?
No.
Okay, I don't want to leave you out of the conversation.
Nah, I'm just here.
You're just vibing.
I'm just existing.
Okay.
just freaking me out with that art.
Junji, I love his art.
She hasn't. I haven't seen you blink once this whole time, so you're doing good.
Yeah, I don't blink in my true form.
Rob, did you ever imagine in our lifetimes that we would see a modern release of Spelljammer?
Dude, I am that guy. I'm like Charlie in Always Sunny with my like conspiracy boards, like Spelljammer confirmed, Spelljammer confirmed. I've been telling people for the last 3 years, it's coming, it's gonna happen, and everyone's always told me no. So I've never been more satisfied than the day it came out, and I just pointed my finger at people who doubted me. I'm like, I told you.
Oh man,
you lost faith. Ye of little faith.
I look. I am one of those. I had your mentality when I first got into it of doing the pieces of string to each on the board. And then eventually, I don't know what happened. I just got black pilled, where I'm just like, it's too weird. It's they want to make it, especially how popular it is nowadays. They never bring something as wacky as this. I feel like it's definitely sort of a little too experimental, a little too wacky. But I guess when I really think about it, their last couple of things, like Wild Beyond the Witchlight, that's kind of weird and funky, and they really have been kind of leaning into it. So I am happy to be proven wrong. I'm not even mad about it. I for a long time was like, it's not going to happen. It's just too strange. I think they want to play it safe. And so I am pleasantly surprised and happy to be wrong. It's kind of wild to see it. When they did that initial post where they did the April's Fool thing, I was mad. I admit I was salty. I'm like, what a kick in the balls, man. It hurts so much. But then when they actually released it, I was like, okay, all is for water under the bridge. All is forgiven, my friends.
It came at the absolute worst moment in time for me, because I had just had a whole load of drama behind the scenes for the stream. So for the eagle-eyed people, and I won't address this in because I have respect for people's privacy, but we have had a fair changeover in cast since the first season. We only have one of the original crewmates still aboard the ship, and a couple.
Did you
of
shoot
the
all the
who-
rest of the others out into wild space?
No. So a couple of the people who were on the stream decided they were no longer going to be a part of the stream, like the day before the announcement that Spelljammer was returning.
No.
And so the day before Spelljammer was returning, I was feeling defeated, and I said to everyone, like, look, I really wanted this story to be about these characters. I don't know if I can continue with this. It's costing me an arm and a leg. I spend all of the money that like I have spare to develop these assets for Spelljammer out of like love for the setting. But it got to a point where I was like, this isn't worth the emotional investment anymore. And so I announced to people like, this is done. I'm sorry guys, like the first season's over. This is only gonna be one season thing. It didn't work out. And then the announcement came, and I was like, man, I can't let this end here. Like this is a sign. Like I have to keep going. So I'm not. By the way, I don't believe in any of that mumbo jumbo. I more or less, I was like, this is an awesome opportunity to be a part of this. So
you may have had the mindset of falling out of it.
Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely. I was thinking like, I just worked on this project for like 7 months, and something that hasn't happened for 30 years has happened the day after that I finally kind of let my doubts get the best of me. And the next day I was like, no, hit reverse. I'm sorry I said that. I know that might upset some people, but we're going on. I'm getting a new crew. You know, James has been with me from the start. Thank you, James, so much for supporting me all the way through this. Same with John. John has been around for over half a season now. Justin, unfortunately, had to leave the stream because of work, but he's still, you know, a founding member of what we do. And I just want to, you know, give huge props to both Dylan and Matt for stepping into the breach when we really needed some people to keep this show alive. You know, so big shout outs to my crew, because I could not do this without them.
I mean stuff like that. You know, I'm the same as you. I'm not really a big spiritual person or anything. I'm not really religious, but man, sometimes you just gotta think like, I don't know what it is.
Life is cruel.
I don't know what it is, but hey, look, stuff like that comes along. I think that was, you know, who knows where it came from, who knows how it happened, but that is, you know, despite the trials and tribulations, that sounds to me like a success story that you know, got to see that, and that filled you with the motivation, the determination to say, you know what, let's turn this boat around and get back out into the stars.
Definitely manifested that.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and then the engagement from the community shot up beyond where it ever was. I don't know if you've noticed it, but every time I look at like our YouTube channel, we're getting more followers, subscribers than we ever were passively, without any real input other than just doing the stream. Because before I was like, you know, I'm sure you know how it is, trying to desperately try and like bring your stream to the light for other people.
Oh, bro, I've been pants down, swinging in front of anybody for many years now. For many years now, I know that grind, brother. Yeah, absolutely.
That's why I just constantly promote Jason on my channel all the time.
Absolutely, just begging for likes and views.
Yes, I whoever, I'll whore myself to whoever.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. We'll do anything. You want us to wear little maid outfits? We'll do it. Me and Jason will get on here.
I've probably got an inflatable tub, a little pool around here somewhere. We'll do
sell
something.
that bathwater. Gonna make millions. Nerdy boy bathwater.
You know
trying
what?
so hard not to wheeze today. That's
I was gonna say we're gonna make Anna wheeze. It's
we have a goal to make Anna wheeze.
It's so good though. It's so great to see, you know, streams like your own and other streams. You know, we finally see. We've all been trying to get on that surfboard, and now you can finally see with them. I mean, partly it's just exciting, just in general, but also, you know, we're content creators. We want. There's nothing selfish to say that we want our art to be seen, you know, in the games that we play. That's why we're streaming. You're streaming to have fun with your players, but you want people to see the stories. You know, you want people to experience it like a movie. You want to get out there and have people view it, to feel something from it. So to see them release this in 5th edition, it's like we finally get to look back on our surfboards and there's the wave, it's coming. And it's kind of, it's super exciting for all of us, I think.
Right, and it's
Big wave.
yeah, and as you know, Jason, it's opened so many doors. Like previously, trying to find people to talk to about this, to collaborate with, to work on a project with, has been like drawing blood from a stone. But now that we are all validated and this opportunity presents itself to not be time wasted, it's so cool to like actually come together with, you know, yourself, Better Than Heroes, particularly Harlan, who's been in contact, potentially people even beyond the scope of that. We have Lord Gasumba and his team who worked on Gary Con and Greyhawk Con, coming to us and helping us develop our own big convention project, and there are people who are like genuinely interested, like people who I think we all look up to and respect, like Jordan, who makes all the lore videos on YouTube, and Brennan Lee Mulligan, who has appeared on Better Than Heroes and is now running a Spelljammer stream on the official D&D Twitch channel.
Absolutely.
Like, that's huge. That is massive for us. So I'm super excited that we're kind of getting some time in the sun.
Absolutely. I think the same thing, maybe a piece of what happened to you with the announcement has happened to a lot of us in the community, where we said, wow, this is really cool, and it's a great excuse to bring our corner of the TTRPG world, our pretty niche corner. It's not just D&D, it's Spelljammer. It's pretty wacky and wild.
Yeah.
But to kind of bring us together and to kind of have the spotlight on us is super exciting. And yeah, it's been a fantastic experience talking with you and getting to meet you, as well as the others. But I mean, you've been extremely supportive, and it's been awesome to kind of go back and forth and just share some of our experiences and to go check out your stream and stuff. So I'm so excited to continue to go back and forth with people in the Spelljammer community to maybe put stuff together. I'm not going to really announce anything on stream, but we're kind of working in the background, some of us Spelljammer fans, to maybe figure some stuff out and maybe come up with some fun stuff. But I'll wait for more of that to materialize before I want to try and dish out any goods on it.
Just get really excited about it, because it's definitely going to happen, and it's totally completely done, and it's not in its like very rudimentary stage. No, we hope that this stuff goes through.
Yeah,
we really do, because it'll be really cool for everyone involved. It'll be really cool for people who are outside the community to join in and actually get something out of the Spelljammer space. So keep your eyes peeled for some upcoming announcements. On my channel specifically, I'm hoping to this is in the works already. I have a few scripts written to address some of the what I see as not inaccuracies, but maybe lazy journalism regarding Spelljammer. I would like to present an organic series of tutorials and explanations regarding the setting, with the input of people who know better than anyone else. So people like Old Dragon, people like Night Druid, people like, again, David Shepard or Big Mac. It's really awesome to have those people in our corner, helping us where they know best, right?
And these are sort of like the OGs of the Spelljammer? Okay, cool.
The OGs. So we have the leader of the Piazza forum, which is like an old forum posting website that's been around for over, I think they just celebrated their 14th year anniversary or something.
I'm telling you, it's wild, because I use that to source information to learn about Spelljammer. So to see someone be like, hey, I basically run that, I'm like, what? That's wild. It's crazy, right? I learned from your site. That's so cool.
I'm sure you've read Beyond the Moons, the website, as well. That
use it all the time.
Main blog post, and he's involved in our project now. And then you have Old Dragon, who is the longest running, most widely subscribed, followed 2nd edition Spelljammer purist in the space. Like, the guy is an encyclopedia of knowledge. What he doesn't know about Spelljammer isn't worth knowing, So it's cool to have those people, banding together to work on these things.
That is really awesome. So I was gonna say, where are you planning on taking the stream and channel into the future? But I guess you kind of, gave me a little bit of a teaser there with kind of coming up with some stuff in terms of, coming up with maybe some actual in-depth information about the Spelljammer world and stuff like that.
Yeah. I definitely want to produce other forms of content. Whilst I adore the stream and its long-form authenticity, I also want to produce stuff that is highly engaging for people, whether that be textual supplements that provide you with fun character options and choices for your games, or whether it's a vocal visual experience for people who don't engage with ocular learning as much. I think those would be really good for the space. There's plenty of videos out there for it. I mean, again, Jordan has done an amazing, more or less an amazing job on his series regarding Spelljammer, but I think that the more content that's out there, the better people's knowledge and understanding of the setting will be.
Well, and now's the time too, especially with the limelight, beginning to shift our way, is people are going to be looking for that. People are excited for the official material, but people are equally probably excited for the supplemental. I always get excited when something official from D&D comes out, because I know then I can go over to a place like Drive-Thru RPG or DM's Guild and see all of the fun extra supplemental material for that. And so it's exciting to think about the wealth of content that may come for Spelljammer, which would be really cool.
Boy, when that green light gets hit, it's just gonna be a wave of Spelljammer content on DM's Guild.
I'm super excited. I'm so
I hope
tired.
to see your stuff on there.
I would love to. Look, there's been, I did a couple of, I've been doing adventures for a while now that I'm like, I would love to be able to sit down and transmute this into, like a written adventure form for people to play through. I think it'd be super fun. I've always had that idea. It's just like a time thing, but with me focusing,
time and money.
Exactly. Because I can probably sort of put down the base ideas, but to put it together, to have it spelled correctly and formatted correctly, that's a whole different world. That's why I've sort of like chipped at the stone and said, maybe I'll come back to this. Let me just keep running my stuff on Twitch for now. But yeah, that'll be super fun. It'll be so nice to maybe not have to rely on going back to 2nd edition and grabbing those old stats that doesn't translate what a 5th edition. That's what I'm most excited for. I'm like, I can go back to some of these old monsters and not have to worry about this stuff anymore. They'll have new updated stat blocks. This will be great.
Absolutely. That is the biggest time sink in running Spelljammer games, is the conversion process. So there are some really good conversions out there. Another big community leader, I don't think he really wants to be, but Cessadrix produced, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Wildjammer, but it's a 100-page conversion supplement for Spelljammer inspired content. You can't say officially Spelljammer.
Right. But it's pretty close. I read through a lot of that. Yeah,
it's great stuff. So if you're interested in those kinds of things, make sure to join not just Jason and my own community, but also like the general Spelljammer community is an alive and vibrant place. It's small, but the people who are involved are incredibly passionate.
Yeah, I found myself doing that. When I got into the Spelljammer world, I tried to go back and consume all of those original books, but also tried to go, to any of these sites that had this information, that had extra information. I really love some of those sites that have an expanded list of Spelljammers, for example, because it's like so cool to see the other variety of options. Like, wow, this is so neat. There's so many more options for stuff like that to just sort of, I try to go on the internet and just find and consume it. So yeah, I read through Wildjammer. It's like so cool to be able to grab some of that stuff and find inspiration in that stuff. It's really neat.
Absolutely. I mean, it's heavily inspired by Dark Matter, which is another setting that does more of a sci-fi spin on the classic Spelljammer, but Cess did a really good job with it. It looks amazing when you get the full PDF downloaded. So yeah, can't recommend that one enough.
Well, that's cool.
Not that I use it personally. I certainly, I think we're both in the same boat here, where we've read it and we've read all of the original content, and all of this has kind of influenced and inspired us. But it would be like, whilst I'm excited to have a official rule set to just kind of be more universal, so that everyone knows what they're doing when they come into a Spelljammer game, I also think that I'm still gonna sprinkle in my own additions regardless, right? Like,
oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna pick pieces and take portions that I like, but I'm still mostly gonna be splicing them over old crappy B horror movies and stuff like that for our individual sessions.
Hey, space clowns are back now, are a thing now.
That's so great, right? I was telling you, like,
some people hate that.
I love it. I mean,
no clowns, no thank you.
That's
See, there it is.
That's funny.
Where I draw the line. I draw the line at clowns, and that's it.
Space clowns is great. I'm all for it.
That's the thing. Spelljammer's so weird. So I was so happy to see that they kind of just leaned into the weirdness, and they're like, you know what, killer clowns from outer space are gonna. I'm like, oh my god, this is so cool. Because that was one of the original things for my campaign. Is I was just like, I'm gonna make Tremors, the movie, that old Tremors movie. I'm gonna make that into an episode, and then Alien. We're gonna do an Alien episode, but it's gonna be
Sharknado next.
I'm writing it down right now. I'm writing it down right now, Rod. Stop giving me ideas.
No.
I'm sorry to all of Jason's players for these.
I'm one of them.
They have played too long. They understand that things get stupid on this. Look at my get up right now, Rob. They know what they're in for. They know what they're in for a long time.
You're the original space clown. So,
yes. Yes.
There's no competing with that.
Well, I know it's probably about time, right? You're gonna probably try and kick things into gear on your stream here soon, I think.
For sure, yeah.
Okay, so let's go ahead and wrap up, just because I don't want to hold you for too long. I know Rob has a game coming up here that he's going to get started up, and I think let's do an outro and get any of your links or anything like that, Rob, that you want to, any shout outs that you want to do, and then I'm going to keep the stream going just so that once you go live, I can send my people over to you just to do the cross-pollination thing.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have any like shout outs or anybody, any links you want to share?
I mean, just come follow our Twitch channel, I guess. If you like to catch up on VODs, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube. If you want to engage with myself personally and the other members of the stream and the audience, we have a sizable Discord channel of well over 300 people who not just are interested in the stream, but also in playing professional paid games. If that's not for you, you don't have to be in the server for that. Besides,
it'd be great if you were, though. I'm just saying, it'd be great if you were.
It would be fantastic, wouldn't it? Last thing I want to say, if for those of you who are currently watching on Jason's channel, who have come from our side of the moon, please follow him. It would be awesome to see at least 2 of you help him hit that 450 follower goal that he's got. Yeah, like James, Christina, I can see people commenting in the chat. If you haven't followed already, please follow Jason so that he can hit his goal today, because that would be sick, and then he would owe me big time.
I would. I'm pretty sure I already owe Rob. He's been such a supportive, cool dude. There we go. We're 1 away. Can we get 1 more?
Come on, 1 more. Let's do it. 1 more. I'm not starting the other stream until somebody.
Oh, there we go. Thank you, Zaw. Our goal has been met.
My boy Nasir with the save.
450. Thank you all so much.
You need a Nasir. You need to get Nasir. Can I just shout out Nasir?
Sure.
Thank you, Nasir. There we go. That's it. That's all I have to say.
Well, thank you so much, Rob. This has been super fun. I've had a great time chatting with you both on here, just in general. It's been really cool to meet you. So I'm excited to stay in touch, to check out more of your streams, and to maybe try and get some more fun stuff going in the background for people. I think it'd be a lot of fun. Yeah, especially. Yeah.
Come on the stream.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm going over there as soon as I'm done here. Absolutely. So I'll
be on the stream. Be a character on the stream.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. Do you do like guest appearances on there?
If you want to come. Yep, we've got a guest slot open whenever someone wants to come and play. So you're more than welcome to come and.
What's your
join in
typical
for a
nights
bit.
that you do? Is it tonight that you typically do it? Okay.
Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday.
And it's like
So-
a once a week thing?
Yeah. So if you don't have a DM on DM happening, hit me up and we'll.
I may have to.
I hate it. I hate it.
Yeah, it's only called that because Anna hates it. I suggested it and she was disgusted by the
it's
title. So.
It's the greatest title of
See?
any show on the internet.
See, Anna?
No.
Rob likes it.
Love it.
Well, you two are like two peas in
wanna
a
come on
pod. Oh my god.
We're long
It was
lost
steamy.
brothers. Yeah, we'll be in, next time, Anna. We'll be in the kiddie pool together, and then you can come hang
That's
out.
right.
Well,
really
Good
DM on
job,
DM.
you did it. Oh my god.
yeah, thank you so much for hanging out, Rob. I'll go ahead and let you go get your stuff ready, and then I'm gonna go ahead and probably plug my stuff. And then once you get rolling, I don't know, I guess I'll try and pull it up in the background. Once I see you start to stream,
Sweet.
I'm gonna send people your way. I would love to take a Wednesday to play a character on your stream. I think that'd be a lot of fun, and vice versa as well. I'll have to fit you in somewhere. That'd be a lot of fun to have you come join us. I've enjoyed all of our conversations and everything so far. It's been really cool.
You just
So
opened Pandora's box on your
Yes.
stream, and I am
Oh,
going
no.
to derail the entire session. And there's nothing you can do
Derailing?
about it.
good.
Derailment is the God Mode channel.
I was gonna say, good
I
luck.
know.
Get in line. So, but yeah, thank you so much. I'll go ahead and let you go, and I'll keep chatting and maybe plug my stuff while you get ready. So,
Okay.
I will see you soon.
I'll try and wait for you all so that you can hit the recap when it's on. But if you don't arrive soon enough, we'll leave him without you. Okay. See you soon. Thank you so much, Jason, for having me on.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure to meet you. Hopefully we'll see a lot more of each other, and we'll continue to cross-pollinate as the DMs get on the DMs.
Yes, yes, I love it. Yes. That was great. Anna hates it. Well, thank you everyone so much. I appreciate you all helping me to hit my milestone of 450. That was so nice of you all. I can't tell you how much it means to me. If you want, I'd love for you, if you want to slap my stuff down there. I have
Ready.
the Twitch here if you enjoy the content. I have Patreon. We got a Twitter to stay up to date on the latest news and stuff like that. And one of the big things is similar to Rob, at least he's been doing it for a while now, I'm trying to get into the professional Gming space, and am currently going to have a Tuesday and Thursday game in the evenings. So if either one of those days works for you, and you have the opportunity to be able to join and pay for something that is going to be professionally DM'd by me, and if you want to check out my content, you can see the VODs down below. We just got done with our latest campaign, Perplexlel. It was a chaotically weird and interactive campaign that had a whole bunch of weird hijinks and going to separate realities. It was super fun. But yeah, if you want a game that is kind of like that, where you get that beautiful immersion of Roll20 visuals and audio, as well as me doing plenty of goofy voices and having a wacky Spelljammer adventure, I would love for you to go check out my Start Playing page. And if you want, go join it. If I can get, as I've said on the stream before, at least 4 people for either the Tuesday or Thursday night game, and if I can get 4 for both, so 8 people overall, I could continue keeping my sole focus on streaming full time, which would be absolutely amazing. So that is the dream. I am spending a couple months trying to focus on both this Twitch and the professional GMing stuff. So if I could get that other milestone reached and get some people that we can start a fun Spelljammer campaign with, that would be absolutely amazing. I'd really dig it. So go check that out. Go check the links out. Thank you all so much for hanging out. I'm going to stick around just so I can wait until Rob is able to get the Bipolardiceroller stream up and running, and then I'm going to send you all his way. So, well, there you go, Anna. Congratulations. I met my new brother over the pond, and
Yep.
That's it. Our
it's-
friendship is finished.
It's all downhill from here. Yeah.
I might actually end up streaming tomorrow. I'm not sure though. It really depends. So.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, make sure and hit up the Discord and stuff when you do. I think he's going live now, so let me go ahead and try and get the raid going here. Again, thank you everyone. Thank you, Rob, for stopping by, and everyone for coming by. both through his channel and just in general. Thank you for stopping by. I hope you enjoy the content. I play D&D with my friends. We have a wacky homebrew world. It's a lot of fun. You should come check it out. We're in between campaigns, but we have a new one coming up. It's called Lucent Odyssey. It's an open-ended hex crawl, Oregon Trail style adventure. You can see the big posts over on my Twitch page in the About section, or over on the Twitter. I'm going to be posting more about the details and features of it coming up in the next month or two. Expect it to come around July-ish. I would need some time to be able to do some commissions and stuff like that, so make sure and hang out for that. But I will be posting more news when we get ready to go live. So I hope you all had a lot of fun. I'm going to send you over to Bipolar's channel now. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me tonight. Go make sure, and if you haven't already, follow his channel. Give him some support. He does an amazing job. There's beautiful art over on the channel. The production values are amazing. It's a lot of fun role play. He does really cool voices over there. So I'm going to send you his way. Have a fantastic evening. Make sure and stay hydrated. Stretch your legs once in a while. Stay happy, healthy, and safe. I want to see you next stream. We're gonna have a lot of fun. I'm gonna be streaming tomorrow and so on. You can see my schedule over on the Twitter page. But in the meantime, I'm sending you his way. Have a great evening, everybody. Let's go hang out with Rob. Goodbye, everybody.
Becoming acclimated to this very kind of thing, and I began to look through the instruction manual, and I see here how to cast magical spells and mage spells and cleric spells, and you go to the pages that it's listed on, in this instance page 41, and they have complete descriptions of how to cast spells and how to contact powerful spirits and how to use these spirits and these powers to overcome, obviously, evil or good, because there's both white and black magic in these books. We picked up another one to see if that was just coincidence, and it's dungeon magic here. And we look through again, and we see in here casting magic spells, page 22, with a complete description. And it says here, each wizard has mastered a certain type of magic. When you meet a wizard, he will give you 4 basic elements of his mystical studies. So we have a wizard now teaching the children of his magical studies. And then here it says, it is important to remember that the source of all magic is the life force of the user. This is the teaching of the occult.